When you look up great guys in the dictionary, you will see a picture of my guest today, Craig Robinson from Mount Carmel High School, to one of the best Ivy League basketball players ever, to the NBA in the front office, collegiate coach. Now he's the new executive director of the National Association of Basketball Coaches. Craig Robinson, buddy. Hey, and I forgot the first brother-in-law at one point. Craig, hey, welcome. Hey, thanks so much. I know you're busy. Thanks so much for being with me.
Listen, Kenny, first of all, thank you for that warm welcome, and I need to hire you as my PR guy, man. That was a good one, but it's great to be here with you finally. I know we've been trying to get this done for a long time, and I'm happy to be doing it. And you should let the folks know all that stuff you named. You and I have known each other since I was in high school.
Yes, yes, we go back a long way, but you were valedictorian of your Mount Carmel class, so everyone knew you were going to be successful.
Actually, I was valedictorian at Bryn Mawr, right?
Oh, okay.
At my grammar school. At Mount Carmel, I was a good student, but I wasn't quite valedictorian. But no, my parents always made sure that we emphasized education, and my sister and I both never felt like we were pressured into getting good grades. It was a real Jedi mind trick. Even before the Jedi came out back then, my parents made us feel like we were supposed to be excellent in school. So it was just sort of second nature.
Now, you lead the New York Knicks. You're now the executive director of the NABC. Why this job and why now?
Well, and for the folks out there, the NABC is the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and Kenny, that's a great question. Now was a lot of things sort of happened at once, and the NABC is an organization that supports and represents coaches, college coaches, high school coaches, grassroots coaches when we can. And we're really a leadership, advocacy, education, and service organization. And, when I was approached about this opportunity, it's rare that a person is given a chance to use all of the skills that they have developed over their years and have it culminate in one position, right? So my education obviously is the foundation for everything. But I've spent 14 years working in corporate America. I've spent time as a player. I've spent time as a coach. I have spent time as a front office person. I've spent time as a media person, and all of these tools in my toolkit I get to use in this position, helping coaches further the game and emphasize student athletes. So it's just been it's a real fortunate position, a fortunate timing that Jim Haney, who was the prior executive director, was leaving at a time when I could take this position. So that's how I ended up here at the NABC.
Now, you mentioned that you were a player. A lot of people forget you were a two-time player, Ivy League Player of the Year at Princeton. What will you take from your playing days that will help you with this job?
I like that question, Kenny. And you always get me on questions that most people don't ask me. So this is the first time I'm answering this question. But what we've done here at the NABC is we started a player development coalition, because what I always felt like when I was a player, and then I saw this again when I got back into coaching, that our players don't really have a seat at the table in talking about issues with the NCAA, right? Our relationship with the NCAA is intertwined, right? We work together for the good of the game. And outside of SAC, which is the Student Athlete Activity Committee, and each school has a couple of people who are on SAC and they are represented at the NCAA, the basketball players didn't have sort of a group that could give feedback on what they thought the game should be, where they thought the game should go. And we've put together a core group of student athletes. There's 11 of them right now. And if this works out, I could see doing this with each conference having a representative of basketball players to give feedback and input to the NABC and the NCAA on issues that affect them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you were a coach, head coach at Brown, head coach at Oregon State. What will you take from your coaching days to this job?
Well, when I was a coach, I was a member of this organization, and I always thought that we could do more on the education side, sort of educating our coaches and keeping them up to date on issues and things like dealing with today's player, the mental health aspect of being a coach and a player, and so I think what we're going to try and do is offer more educational benefits for our membership, and then secondarily, having been a coach and not having to have dealt with the NCAA, because as you know, I was so focused on my team and my schools that and I stayed out of trouble, so I never had to worry about dealing with the NCAA. Is sort of developing a relationship with the NCAA so that they can look more favorably on all of us as coaches.
Well, for years, the NCAA, the NBA, USA Basketball, the coaches, they've never been on the same page. You were a G League general manager, you were a player, you were a coach. Do you think all of those things you've done can help you get on the same page with the NBA?
Well, I sure hope so, Kenny, and I'm not trying to be immodest or anything like that, but I think that it gets back to what we talked about originally. I think all of my skills that I have acquired in all these positions will help me sort of navigate the course to work to a really good working relationship with the NCAA. My counterpart over there is Dan Gavitt, who a lot of people know is Dave Gavitt's son, and he's done a wonderful job with college basketball, running college basketball for the NCAA. And he and I are fast developing a great relationship. We had some mutual friends before I got to the NABC. We kind of knew of each other, but now we're getting together and we're talking about all kinds of new ideas and how to work our coach's voice into the NCAA in more of a positive way. And I couldn't have a better partner in all of this. But to get back to your point, I think, being able to talk to the folks at the NBA and to talk to the folks at USA Basketball and talk to the college coaches, having sat in their seat, it gives me a credibility where I hopefully will be able to use that to be a better ambassador for our coaches.
Are the college basketball coaches worried that we may not even have a season? I mean, this is really dangerous out there.
Yeah, Kenny, I will say that before the 26th of September, our coaches were very nervous about not having a season. Division 1, 2, 3, NAIA, they were all concerned. But I think now that we've got a start date, which is November 25th, that has at least calmed the Division 1 coaches. And now the NCAA is working on Division 2 and Division 3 on figuring out what their season's going to be like. As we know, Division 1 men's basketball drives a whole lot at the NCAA, and it affects us at the NABC. We feel like if we can get through a season on the Division 1 side, that's going to help everybody. So I think people are still scrambling, trying to figure out how to schedule. You remember the days of scheduling, man. That's probably the most insidious job to have as an assistant coach. You've had it, I've had it. We've all had it. Who've been in the coaching ranks. Scheduling it might be the hardest job to do, even considering recruiting. Right now, we're just trying to schedule the games that should have happened in between November 10th, which would have been our original start date, and November 25th. that's somewhere around 900 games, if you can believe that. So now coaches are really focused on trying to get those games and those tournaments scheduled. But it gives them something to do, and it gives them a real purpose and a real feel that the season is actually happening.
Yeah, and for the smaller schools like a Chicago State, they need the non-conference games to make their budget. I mean, they depend on that money.
Yeah, my guy Lance Irving over there who's a great coach and a great person. I think he is. I think it's going to be tough for low resource schools like that. It's going to be hard to get the buy games. And for the folks out there who don't know that, those are games that you get paid to play. Those are going to be harder to do because resources are at a minimum, and given the COVID situation, traveling, we haven't figured out the traveling part of all of this. Teams may not want to get on a commercial flight, and all of the COVID-19 protocols. So it puts the lower resource schools in a precarious position. But what I do know and what I feel is that not only is it the Autonomy 5 conferences are all trying to do whatever they can to get at least a couple of these lower resource schools in games with the teams that can afford it. So it's really a team effort. It's going. This year is not going to be your normal year. There's going to be a lot of inequity. There is going to be a lot of people needing to be extremely flexible. What we need to do is be able to get to the NCAA tournament, have the NCAA tournament, get through this year, and then hopefully by next year we'll have the beginnings of a vaccine where we can get back to a more normal environment.
Do you think you'll have fans at all?
Kenny, that I think that's going to be determined on a conference by conference basis, and it's going to have a lot to do with state and local protocols. I thought I was savvy on the political front with my family being in politics, but let me tell you, when you start getting down to sort of the state and local county levels, no one has the same protocols. So it could be hard to have many people at games, and unlike football, we'll be inside, and that's sort of that's an incubator for COVID-19. So a lot will depend on the number of people. A lot will depend on how big your arena is. There'll be a lot of adjustments that need to be made, but what I'm comfortable in saying is we'll have some basketball and it will be broadcast. I just don't know how many folks will be able to come to games this season.
From the coach's standpoint, I would be very worried because the G League, they're starting this team with high school kids. If you don't want to go to college, and they're offering as much as $500,000. That's a lot for a poor kid who grew up like we did in the city, south side of Chicago. Are you worried that this could ruin or hurt? I won't say ruin. How about hurt college basketball?
Well, Kenny, and you mentioned earlier, I used to be the GM of a G League team, the Westchester Knicks, and so we were a part of the process and kind of figuring this sort of new system out with the G League. And what I will say is, it is something that we as coaches are taking a real hard look at. But I will tell you, having worn that hat of a GM, that league is not for kids, right? It is a man's league, and not everybody is built for that. So when I think about it from that terms, there's going to be some really big decisions that need to be made by student athletes, because on one hand, I think if you're good enough to do that, I'm a free market guy. I went to the University of Chicago for business school, so I've been a free market guy. If you're good enough to get paid to play and you think that you can make that last long term, you should do that. But I also look at my own situation and a lot of situations of kids who went and used college as a way to have some long-term success and not just
Mm-hmm.
short-term dollars. I think
Right.
we as coaches are going to have to just change our marketing, our marketing strategy, right? We
Mm-hmm.
are really going to have to make sure we emphasize the long-term benefits of going to college, even if it's just for 1 or 2 years. You know, being able to come back to a university and get your degree, or get your degree and then go on to play professional basketball, which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got done, my earnings potential skyrocketed after I was done playing, where a lot of
Right.
current players right now, their money is made in those first few years, because most guys don't make it to the minimum time in the NBA. So
Right.
it's going to be an interesting issue to kind of think about. But I must say, college basketball is such a great product, and I think that it can sustain some talent
Mm-hmm.
going on with skipping college. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel good about it, and I think like I said, I'm a free market guy. The market's going to even out, right? The
Mm-hmm.
guys who are good enough are going to realize, okay, I can do this. The guys who aren't going to be good enough can use college to as a way to develop into an NBA player.
Well, and I always tell people a college education never hurts anybody. You can't go wrong. Hey, do you like the idea now that you're going to let the student athletes maybe get something from their image if people decide to market their image?
I do. I think it's good for the student athlete, and I'm speaking for our coaches. We all want what's best for our student athletes. I just want to caution everybody in that it's not like there's this big extra pot of money out there, right? So there's not an extra pot of money that's not being used that's now going to go to the athlete. There's going to be a reallocation of resources, right? So it's going
Mm-hmm.
to have to come from somewhere, and I just don't know how big those dollars can be yet, because we haven't done it. But I feel very good that at least the student athletes are going to have an opportunity to earn some money based on
Mm-hmm.
their talent level.
What's your vision for this job as executive director? Do you have one vision you want everybody to know?
You know, right now we're in the process of putting together a strategic plan, and I'm going to reserve the right that things will change.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to make sure that that we are advancing athletic and academic excellence for our student athletes and for our coaches. That's sort of
Mm-hmm.
the big idea. I want to get our coaches. You know, Kenny, when you and I were younger, a coach was a revered person in all of our
Yeah.
lives. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell people all the time. I had my first coach was Bob Hambrick, who ended up coaching at Simeon. I didn't go to
Mm-hmm.
Simeon, but he was one of my first coaches. Um, Johnny Gage, who coached me at the Martin Luther King Boys Club, and then Father Mike O'Keefe at Mount Carmel,
Mm-hmm.
Ed McQuillan at Mount Carmel, and Pete
Right.
Carrill at Princeton, and then the guy who started it all out was Fraser Robinson, my own dad. And I'm telling you, man, I revered every single one of those guys, and they had an impact on who I turned out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that we've lost that a little bit, and I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it is because of the pressures to win. Some of it is greed. Some of it is we might have hired some of the wrong guys in positions. But I feel like as the sort of face of the NABC now, that I have an opportunity to sort of bring back that reverence for coaches,
Mm-hmm.
because you know, as you know, all of these guys have a real platform now, and they have such
Right.
an influence on students and student athletes that if we can get ourselves back to where we were, um, where we were viewed and how we're perceived, get that to be more positive. I think I would be happy with having accomplished that.
I have to ask this one question before I let you go. Everybody
Sure.
would want to know this. What was it like for 8 years? You were the first brother-in-law How did that change that? How did that change your life? What was that like?
Well, you know how here I always my the first thing that comes to my mind was in our family growing up, my poor sister had to follow in behind me for all my games because it wasn't like you had two cars in a family, right? So if I had a game and my parents were going, my sister had to go, and my poor sister had to be Craig Robinson's little sister. Everywhere we go, she would be like, you must be Craig's sister. Nah, 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 nah. Now I'm Michelle Obama's big brother, right? She paid me back in spades. I can't go anywhere without people telling me what a wonderful person she is and what a nice job. But I'm saying that a little tongue in cheek. I couldn't be more proud of having been in a family that has done. She and President Obama have done so much for this country and so much for a lot of people. It was a real honor, and that was I had always voted, but until Barack came into our family, I never worked a campaign or did any surrogate campaigning and anything like that. It was really educational and enlightening to see how the process works, which is why one of our big initiatives at the NABC is we're trying to register as many student athletes to vote as we can. Okay. All of our coaches have, the majority of our coaches have signed a voter registration pledge. And, when you've lived that life, you see how voting is important. Doesn't matter which side, but being a part of the process is really important. But it was a wonderful time. It was a hard time. It was a wonderful time. And I am glad to have been able to take part on a very small scale.
Final question, final point. You see this photo right here? Can
yes.
You see that photo?
Yes.
Now, your mom, who I love, beautiful, looking lovely.
Right.
Your sister, the first lady, looking like the first lady. You went old school, Mendo. Saturday night dance party.
I went Mount Carmel, trying to show up at a Mendel party, straight white Saturday night DJing.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I thought when I saw that photo.
Well, dude, I am not a white wearing person like that. I may have worn a white suit. The last time I had on something white was I was in high school. So that was my sister called up and was like, we're having a white party. And I'm like, what? White party? And so that's what I had in my closet. I had my old disco shirt and some white jeans.
Hey, you pulled it off, baby. You pulled it off. Oh, you're right. Mount Carmel going to Mendo.
Because you wouldn't dress like that at a Mount Carmel party. You would dress like that at a Mendel party, though.
Hey, Craig. Hey, thanks so much for taking time being with me, buddy. This is a wonderful job for you. I'm so happy for you. Congratulations. And if there's anything I can do to help you out, I'm only a phone call away.
No, of course, Kenny. And I've appreciated our friendship over the years, man. And I'm happy to be on here, and have me back whenever you need me.
You got it, buddy. Hey, thanks so much, Craig. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.